It is 7 p.m., so we will call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in Council Chambers at 216 Main Street West, Waterford, Manitoba, this 19th day of December 2023 at 7 p.m. Present this evening, myself, Reeve, Gade, Councillors Brian Burick, Carrie, Blosha, Brad Kushniryk, Raymond McGregor, Terry Neely, Byron Zbirun. Our interim CAO Pat Ellingson is here, and our videographer Jeremy Bergen is in and out tonight as he has 2 meetings to cover, but he'll be back a little bit later on. We have no one absent tonight, so we're going to start into the agenda at section number 2. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council held this 19th day of December 2023 shall be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor McGregor and Councillor Kushniryk. Any additions or changes to the agenda that anyone would like to propose? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Number 3, adopting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes? Did anyone spot the problem that we have to fix? I'm proud of myself. I found one.
You do.
So, when we made changes to a resolution last time, it appears the computer did not save it. So our general check resolution is not what was actually done at the meeting. So we'll get that off the videotape and correct it. We had excluded one check from it for the Swan Valley Vet Clinic, and that's not showing there. So we will make that change to it yet. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held December 5th, 2023 shall be adopted as amended. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha, and seconded by Councillor, there he is, on the list, Councillor Burick. Any further discussion or any other errors or omissions? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor of the resolution? That is carried. General business is pretty light tonight. We're going to skip financial items for a minute and go down to the 6-8 Town of Swan River Purchase Services. So we can have some discussion about that before we look at checks, because the check is in there and we may as well have the discussion first. So we have a copy of the purchase services invoice. I've been asking the town about this for a few weeks. What our agreement with them provides is that they're to invoice us quarterly for purchase services. The first invoice was due in March, the next one should have been here in June, then there should have been one in September, and then we should be receiving a final one in early January for the adjustments. We haven't received any until December 14th, and we asked a couple times if there was any plan on sending one over. Our concern was that we have the money budgeted for this year. We would prefer to spend the money this year rather than have a huge surplus this year and then be hit with a bill for it all next year. So they did send it over. There's a note came with it when it came by email that the numbers, as per the agreement, are based on what happened in 2022. And so specifically to the landfill, they feel there will be some substantial adjustments when the 2023 numbers are known, because these still have the substantial amount of the landfill in that other category from the contaminated dirt that was there in 2022. So the suspicion is that our share will go up from that $2,781 quite substantially, more to what we had budgeted for the year, but they don't have those adjustment numbers yet. So what they've proposed we do is we pay 3/4 of the total amount due, so the $280,156. We do have a check prepared for that tonight, but I suspected that council would want to have some discussion on it.
The landfill normally runs about 70 or 80,000.
Normally. And it depends. They're supposed to measure twice a year to see who's coming, and then that sets up how we pay for it. In 2022, they measured 3 times, an extra bonus time, and that time is what cost us $50,000 or $60,000 from them choosing to measure an extra time.
Well, you mean the survey, you mean? Or?
Yeah, they survey who's bringing stuff.
Yeah, where are you from the RM, but it's a contractor working for somebody in town, or whatever.
Yes,
so
there's...
can be a little bit
Yes.
ambiguous at times, I guess is the word.
And I think there was, some of our intention when we gave them notice to end the current agreement and come up with something new is that has to be addressed. because it hasn't been working well that way, you know, sort of the honor system, because even people that say they're from Swan River, are they really from Swan River? You know, where exactly do
Well,
they
yeah.
live? It just,
Yeah.
there's so much uncertainty. Then last year, with so much material coming in from outside the valley, that wasn't addressed the best of ways. They do tell me, we had the discussion the other night again, that the spare money from last year that we did not get a share of was put into the landfill closure reserve, which would in theory eventually benefit us anyway, because there wouldn't be as much for closing costs.
So we could likely add another 70,000 to this figure.
I would suspect. We had budgeted around 100 for that. I don't have it in front of me.
For
It's in here
landfill?
someplace.
Oh, okay.
We expected it to be a lot higher than that 2,000. And there's still, like, there's the way that agreement is written, there's a chance a lot of this might change too, because they haven't got all those numbers put together of who used the pool this year and who used the arena this year. And so those percentages might change. These are all the 2022 percentages. But as they get those numbers crunched here at the end of the year,
Oh, everything is from 2022.
all of this shares. The budget is for this year's budget, but how it's shared between us is based on how it was
Yeah.
used in 2022. So we would expect some type of adjustment. For sure on the landfill, there's going to be a
It
change.
won't go down, likely.
We
Not
could
with the
believe in
landfill.
fairy dust
The
if we
landfill
want.
will offset any other
Right.
reductions and anything, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, it was always up there, 70,000, 80,000, but.
I think the total amount we had budgeted was a touch more than 400,000 for the year. So they're at 373 now for the whole year. With the landfill in there, it's going to be
Yeah,
coming right up
so
to
you're proposing we pay this amount, no?
the 3/4 of it, the 281.56.
Yeah, pay that amount.
Yeah,
And
then wait for the
adjustment will
final.
come later.
And they should, I would assume they'll have that in January, if not early February. And our current agreement with them expires sometime in January, is it? Or is it early February?
It's always winter time when we're negotiating.
Yeah, we gave them notice. I'm just not sure the day the notice is for, but
The aquatic center, I see, is 118.
mhm.
That's after you had them adjust the figures last year too, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was worse before that.
Yeah. Well, that's close to what we proposed in the beginning. Well, close, I mean,
Is
it's
that for the year, 118?
yeah.
That can't be right.
What is Manitoba's paying?
I have no idea.
It was on there.
They're not in it, I don't think.
Minnetonka's is refusing to pay
Yeah.
any of the shared services. They're calculated in
Yeah.
here, but they're refusing to pay them. So in many of these, you'll see their share is a certain amount, but the town isn't receiving that from Minnetonka's.
Oh,
So they're just eating those amounts.
well, they've never put any in the aquatic center.
No, they haven't. Never did.
No, they didn't in the beginning.
No, they didn't anytime, I don't think.
Okay, I guess, well, we gotta pay, I mean, we can get away with 280, we'll be smiling, you know.
Get away with nothing, we'd be smiling.
Well, a bigger smile. Just a couple more skid steers. Huh?
So I do have a resolution. Whereas the installment invoice for 3/4 of purchase services from the town of Swan River arrived in December instead of March, as indicated in the agreement. And whereas the municipality of Swan Valley West has already given written notice to end the current written agreement and has invited the town of Swan River to negotiate a new agreement, and whereas the town of Swan River has not yet entered negotiations for a new agreement, be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Swan Valley West approve payment for the installment invoice for the 2023 service year. Is there someone who would like to move the resolution? Councillor Burick. Someone to second the resolution. Councillor Neely. Any further discussion on it? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favour? Those opposed? I think I have everybody now, right? Yes? Okay, so it is carried. Do you want to record a vote on it? No. Okay. I was supposed to ask beforehand, but if you wanted one, we'd still squeeze it in there for you. Let's return to financial items now. So general checks. Be it resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General checks number 19364 to 19413 in the amount of $696,872.59, and check number 19359 in the amount of $254.04. Is there a mover? Don't all raise your hands at the same time there. Councillor Zbirun and Councillor Neely to second. So that check 19359, that's the check that never ends. What I can advise on it is after the meeting, much investigation was done as to why we were paying the vet services twice. The first check had been written to the vet services board instead of the vet clinic, so it had to be voided and a new check had to be issued. So the first check has been voided, it has not been paid on it. This other check then is the replacement one that goes to the correct place. All the other checks, for the most part, I have in our handy dandy orange folder. Who has questions?
Is that it for Cooks? Cooks is done now?
That is the end of Cook's, and that's also the end of their crushing and hauling contract.
Okay.
It is over. There is no option to renew the crushing because it was renewed. The hauling we could renew, but I think the discussion on the table has been we're retendering. So we need to tender for both crushing and hauling fairly soon.
Yeah.
Probably early January we'll have that ready, I hope.
Yeah.
They were a little behind on their crushing budget. So I met with Blair, and that final invoice is the extra 8,000 yards. They're crushing it now. They probably won't be done until early January though, but because it's year end we're going to pay it, and that will conclude having spent what we wanted to spend on crushing. The one caveat to that is that some of that crushing includes the gravel cost in the crushing invoice. So where you see the supply of gravel is lower than it should be, some of that's actually used up in the crushing. Because there's some of those invoices where the $2 a yard or $1.25 or whatever it is for the actual raw gravel is on that invoice and did not get put into gravel supply. It just went as crushing. Other checks of note, 19372, JTL Backhoe Services.
Carrie,
Oh, you have your
I
hand
got
up?
a couple.
Okay.
If you want to just tell that one first, that's okay. It wasn't
Sure.
one of mine.
Okay, it's Benito landfill, Durban landfill closure is the $7,000 of it, so that was spreading out the clay plus also hauling some, then another Benito landfill, and transporting the 210 up to Alpine for the scrubbing, which was a little cheaper with them, so that's why they were up for it. Which checks did you want?
Well, the 19383, is that your banquet or what?
383, that is
382.
19383.
staff banquet gifts, yes.
That's your whole banquet or what?
That's the gifts
And what were your gifts?
19382.
for the gift game we played. We did a team building thing there. We had the staff play that game where you steal the gifts from each other.
Was it $1,000?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, nope, that's just what I was asking. And do we not usually pay Donald like by resolution? The 19384, we usually play that one when we see.
We usually have an item to accept the report.
Yeah, a report and a resolution for
Did that
that.
get missed? I
It's
think
in the wrong spot, I believe.
I think I maybe didn't get.
Because it wasn't on the
the
agenda.
report. No, yeah, I missed it. My apologies.
Okay, we'll add that in. Yes, typically we would have a
A different,
resolution first to receive the report.
yeah, like, it's not that I don't want to pay him, it's just I wonder why it's there without a
'Cause I never-
resolution. And then another one is probably 19411. There was kind of one, the last agenda the same, but a little bit different amount. Is that just some different parts maybe that were from,
411. This says Milwaukee M18 fuel half-inch drill driver, Milwaukee chainsaw blower combo kit, and Walter 29-piece SST drill bit set. 1/16, 1/2 inch, 118 degree.
so, but last month's checks, they were not kind of,
That was, I think, the shop, wasn't it? This is fire department.
this is fire department checks?
Yeah.
Okay. No, then it was the shop last month, yeah. Was close to the same amount.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that was my only one. And then 19413, that's her contract payment. That's the very last one.
Yes.
That's her contract for the year.
So the resolution provides that in a non-election year, a $300 retainer.
I just was checking if that
Yeah.
was what that was.
That's supposed to be paid in December.
Yeah, no, I was just checking. I thought that's probably what it was, but, and I thought, well, maybe if she did some work in the office, it would be in a different spot.
Yeah, no, that was.
19,386. That's deal Vera.
That is
What
monument
is that for?
restoration.
Like it's monument. What is it?
Oh, yeah.
I don't
Is
know.
that like finding a corner post on the section or something?
So for each of them, they've given us a map of all the posts they put in.
Oh, I see.
And then there's 3 different batches here of them. For
Some of them
Northeast 26,
We couldn't find
35,
the old ones, I guess.
we don't look for them.
Oh, the landowners look
Yes.
and they can't find them and
Then they call these guys. And in some cases, they found some of them. In this one, they found 3 out of 5. So we don't have to pay for new ones there. This one, they found, well, it looks like they found 3 out of 6 of them. One of them had interesting notes on it that they had found them, but they had been,
covered over.
no, tampered with,
Oh,
was their words.
maybe moved.
I'm thinking. One of them, there's a note that they found a rusty hole in the ground. I don't know what's going on out there, but
People don't have anything better to do, I guess.
I don't know if people collect those or if the rusty hole was where it had been and it was now a couple feet the other way or exactly what happened.
The fence was in the wrong place or something, had to move. Whatever.
We can also make application and get some of these costs recovered from the province.
We do get some.
Yeah, we have to send an application and obviously it needs to get approved.
I don't know, it's curious what they.
Okay, so I have this one picked out. We will get this put together for resolution yet.
Well, I
that
just
report,
thought,
'cause it
I
needs
just
to
thought
get
it was
passed.
kind of in a wrong spot.
Yep. I did check and we definitely did not do it before. Do we want to wait until that's done? Are you good with going with this and then we'll catch that up?
It was explained, I just,
Yeah,
it was
you need to
explained to
scan
me, I
that
just
to
wanted
me.
to ask.
Okay. Sorry, any other questions or discussion on the general checks? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We're going to skip 5.2 until the CAO gets back. She needs to help the deputy Reeve with that. Let's go 5.3. Be it resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments number 259 to 272, the amount of $24,818.07. Does someone care to move the resolution? Councillor Blosha and Councillor Kushniryk. Discussion on that. Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. For number 5.2, I have to declare a conflict. If the deputy Reeves could be so kind as to take over the meeting for me, I would be pleased to return once you've dealt with that item. And the CAO has the package to explain it.
5-2.
Is item 5.2? Okay, what is it, 2?
Security cameras.
Okay, 5.2, be it resolved that we approve a check 19,416 in the amount of $6,292.30 for security cameras.
Okay, so these were the security cameras they were ordering for installation, and I had given Bill the credit card to pay for them when he ordered them, and for whatever reason it was not going through, and so he was on ordering them already, so he just used his credit card to purchase these cameras.
So they weren't
installing on
actually
the
purchased
buildings.
at his business, they were
They
purchased
were
with his
not.
card.
And you see it, I tried, it gives you so little room to write, but it was Cynics is the name of the company that the cameras were ordered from.
That's for the fire hall and for Benito.
Think you need to do
In the office here and the shops.
You need to move
Yeah,
on
and
second
if you
here
wanna
yet.
have
Yeah,
a look
what
at
she's
them.
explaining.
They're not up
So
yet.
should've
At
gone
the
first.
invoices, the ones on the
Jim.
office are up.
Oh,
And, I'm not sure how far he got on, Thunder West, he was working on
who's
pulling
doing
wire.
work?
Danny Martinuk?
I don't know.
No, I don't know the man personally either, but he was around here crawling up in the attic and he got all the cameras going on this office and.
So where does the feed go to?
Hmm?
From these cameras, where does it go to?
An app.
Oh, okay, so nobody can look at it in real time.
No, well, I mean, council could, or like whoever has this app downloaded. But
No,
not
I
the
mean,
general
you
public.
couldn't look at it when it's actually happening, it's after the fact all the time. I mean,
No, it'll be live to
No,
whoever
it'll
has
be-
access.
Live.
Oh, so you can sit there all day and watch this?
You could.
You wanna
Okay,
see if
that
there's
was
any
my
mice
Yeah.
going across the snow or anything like that? You wanna attach this back to the?
Yeah, okay, do we have a mover for that resolution? Okay, do we have a seconder? Okay. Neely and- Okay, any further discussion? Any further questions? Any further explanations? That's it, okay.
I think that explains it unless anybody
Okay,
has
nothing else?
any questions about
If
it.
there's none other, call the question. All in favor? Opposed, it's none. It's carried. I didn't enter this into the computer. Neely, pass it. Zbirun, second. Do I have to sign this?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
anybody else want? Did you get them?
Yeah, he got it. I'm not sure he did.
Only 3 left for me. Partner. Oh, 2, I'm
That's it.
sorry, doesn't
That's it? That's it. You have to do whatever. Neely passed it. Zbirun, second it, and it's carried. And Gade declared the conflict. So I don't know what he does in here. You'll have to,
I'm doing it.
you do it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, come on.
Do you know who moved and seconded that?
Hmm?
Do you know the details typed in
Yeah,
here?
he did.
She said
He
she's gonna
knew.
do
I put it in.
Oh,
He
I
just
have
Did
to
you
close my
refresh?
meeting and start over again, yeah, because if you made a change in there, this one was bad. Hey, give me a second.
Oh,
Because only one person can change the meeting at the same time. Yeah. You're evil. Almost.
Yeah, tried.
Give me a second here.
Better than Brian trying.
Well, I was
Oh,
afraid you
yes.
might delete the whole agenda.
No, I didn't.
Be time to go home.
Knowing me, yeah, knowing me, I don't want to touch it. I have trouble just pulling mine or anything like that.
Okay, 5-4. Be it resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Indemnities for November, number 4541 to 4549, the amount of $9,332. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor McGregor. And I will start the timer on who wants to note something interesting from there. Seriously. So the question that had arisen, everybody was deducted $80 for the November 29th regular meeting. What's the feeling of council on that?
When the meeting's cancelled, it's not a deduction,
Well,
but it's fine, whatever.
yeah.
We didn't have it, so.
yeah, I put it out there. I did pull up the bylaw to see what it actually says. So it says, it's 7919 is the bylaw that contains that. It's on the agenda later to look at because we were going to make changes to it anyway. So it says, The absence from regular meetings of council shall be subject to deduction of the monthly remuneration in the amount of $80 per meeting. So I would tend to think that there was no absence because there was no meeting. So the question of the group is, do you want to leave it like that? Do you want to make a change to it? What do you want to do?
You mean,
Let's make a change so it doesn't happen again.
Okay, that we can take care of easily without having to change anything that's been done.
So it doesn't happen again.
Okay.
and back pay with interest.
Back payment. Councillor Neely wants back payment.
Why let you guys both be in the same room at the same time?
So am I hearing that you would like that added to your next email?
No.
No,
We're saying
no,
no.
not
he
the
just said
same.
just leave it.
But we're going to change the
Just leave
bylaw.
it, just it doesn't happen again.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was that joke.
Yeah, no, I struggle with it, so
Yeah.
I don't, I totally understand you asking the question, because I asked myself the question, and I didn't know which way to go.
Any further discussion?
Christmas gifts will cover that from the Christmas party, right?
Those in favor? That is carried.
Did you eat all them chocolates yet?
Not mine.
Well, she won't give you any?
No.
Oh,
5.5, financial report. Be it resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan West hereby receives a financial report for the period ended December 18th, 2023, as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Zbirun. So, work's been ongoing here. You remember we all did budgeting. We all had a beautiful evening many months ago, did that. In reconciling this, we found that some of the numbers don't match. So what we approved as a budget and what was still sitting in Munisoft wasn't always the same number. So Pat has been updating those for us and getting them more correct, which is a process that's almost done but not completely done. So you'll notice some changes in the budgeted lines to be what we had actually approved in that first document as compared to what we've been seeing. There's also a change in here of the school division was showing us paid. Right now it's not showing us paid, but as you know, we did write the check, so we're going to figure out what happened and get that back in there. Overall, it's looking okay-ish. Outside of that, I have the LUD report here at paper, and I can tell you the LUD report is a mess. There's a lot of fixing to be done there because a lot of things are currently included in the LUD report that aren't part of the LUD. So that's why it's not on the agenda, because it simply isn't accurate at all. It's showing a loss of $70-some thousand to the LUD, but it's also showing things that had nothing to do with the LUD. So that will have to get fixed up here in the next little while. Any other questions about the financial report? Councillor Neely had a couple before the meeting. One was about assessment services, and in the report there's an error. So the 2022 assessment hadn't been paid, so we paid both 22 and 23 this year. One of them correctly went into assessment services. The other one went into a category that looks like we spent that much on envelopes. So it's going to get moved back to actual assessment services where it should be. And his other question related to liability insurance. Right now, the insurance we paid for this year isn't properly showing. It was coded as a prepaid expense for next year, so it doesn't show in this report. That has to be moved back to a 2023 expense. And that's also why you'll notice something like the Benito Rec Center shows a $56,000 budget line. That's for the insurance, but it shows it hasn't been spent because that insurance isn't coded in there, so it'll get added. And there'll be a few other spots you'll see those little adjustments for.
That's how much insurance is on the building.
Mm-hmm. Scary, isn't it?
56,000.
It used to be, Councillor Blosha should probably remember, was it 25, 30 when we both first came here? It's gone up, it's double.
It was 32
Oh, yeah.
when I left.
And then it was, yeah, no.
Yeah, it's
It's
gone
double,
so
In
much.
the old days, when I was on the council, when he was like 10,000.
Mhm. No, then when 32 seemed like a lot.
Yeah.
And then, can I just ask you about the Benito landfill material line there?
You may. Let me see if I can find it. It's
Well, budgeted
540.
for 10 and it's already at 24.
What number is that?
540, 400, 110.
110. I don't know, we would have to drill down as that.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've really spent that much.
Well, if I was kind of keeping track when he's putting the fill, it's adding up.
It is. The
Like it's
Durban closure
3,000
costs
here,
though seem really
2,000
low
there.
too.
Not the fill for Durban, I'm not talking about that, but
I'm
this is,
just curious that maybe some of the Durban
hopefully some of
slipped
that's
into the
Durban
wrong
in
one.
there.
I don't think we have anything more detailed here at the table tonight.
Because that's really adding up, like double, more than double what we budgeted.
We had checks for it tonight.
Yeah, no,
October,
I
November.
looked through those two
And that was about, was it $3,000?
or maybe a little bit more. No, because one of them was hauling nothing.
The November one included 80 yards of sand, which will be more than just the sand for November. It'll be a few months worth.
He hauls that and uses it for cover, right?
Right. And there's also wood chips being used for cover,
Yeah.
and they're on a separate invoice.
I'm actually wondering too about if, the, garbage pickup wages, there's nothing in there.
Yeah. Is that adjusted?
So is that
Okay,
adjusted in the one other
Well,
one?
what's supposed to happen
'Cause
is that should be the LUD amount for garbage.
Yeah, the garbage.
And that
collection
and that
wages,
line
but it
should
says
have
zero.
that. And then the full amount should be transferred to operator wages to offset the operator wages for garbage.
But yet it says that the landfill attendant is like, we're way over budget on that. There's no way we should be.
So,
There's no way there's no way that the landfill attendants made that.
No.
so
There's no way.
the way these figures get in here is it's set up that way in Paymate.
Okay,
So I'll have to drill down into Paymate and see
but,
how they've broken down those wages.
but tell me that the landfill attendants, it's not $33,000 a year.
No, and I
That's
didn't-
what it's in there as.
Yeah, I'll have to go and look and see what
Like,
the
yeah.
itemized expenses are.
So it's only 2 days a week.
Three.
Three.
3 in the wintertime and 4 in the summertime.
But there's just, like, and then, anyway.
So far,
So we can't really accept it if it's not right.
29,848 for landfill attendant
Yeah.
is the actual.
Is the
checks
actual,
that's
oh,
in.
okay.
So
But-
it's not that far off. And that won't count the hours when somebody else had to go when he wasn't there.
So where do you think the garbage collection wages are?
But they should be in operator wages, and then there should be a transfer from that line for what had been budgeted for the LUD for garbage to operator wages. Because when the LUD said, what was the amount for LUD supposed to be for
27.
garbage?
Garbage collection 40.
Was 40. But I'm
This is
thinking
garbage
that
collection wages is 27.
the garbage collection is likely just falling under Benito operator, no? Because we're over 30 there.
Yeah,
That's what I mean, is it supposed to be down here?
It would likely just transfer down there.
$30,000 if we were over in Benito from 68 to 98.
Mm-hmm.
That's likely has to be put into the 30 of that or
You're going to
whatever.
see a lot of mess in there until your LED accounts get straightened out.
Yeah, that would offset that loss and bring this up to where we budgeted. Right? And then $3,000.
Does the LED have that $33,000 to pay that over and above what's costing?
I think it's in the wrong line is what I'm saying.
So the LUD pays the $40,000 for us to provide the service. But the LUD doesn't, from the report I see for the LUD, they weren't charged the $40,000. They need to be charged the 40, and that needs to be put onto the wages to take the wages amount down.
The problem is the report and the accounts haven't been set up to the way that it was budgeted. So historically, this is how checks were expensed to the LUD, and that's just carried on. But the way it's been budgeted now has changed, and so that whole report has to be redone to reflect what you're actually doing
So-
and make the expenses go where they're supposed to.
So how do you keep track of the working hours or because aren't the people that are working in Benito they're getting paid at large. So they get, what, 3.5% they get is paid at large, right?
Well, they're just paid
Something like
just,
that.
they're paid exactly the same as the guys in Durban, as in Swan, as everything
Yeah,
else.
yeah, but they get, but the work they're doing in Benito to the work they're doing out of Benito, is that balancing out, or
So for something like the garbage,
the
LED
garbage is paid, you already budgeted for the garbage.
Yeah.
So Mondays and Fridays for 8 hours is getting, or what, however many they're getting paid through the garbage. But then there's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that if they're paying, you're paying at 3.5% at large. So are you keeping track of the money that you're spending, or are you keeping track of the hours that they're putting in?
They work exactly like everybody else. I mean, if we were to do that, then we have to figure out how much of our 3.5% went to gravel in Ward 6, and
Exactly.
it
So
just,
how much?
it doesn't work that way. Because they're Swan Valley West employees, they're not LUD employees. So we're based on a different tax rate in there. The roads in the LUD are still Ward 2 roads. They still get maintained. This is kind of all what we went over at budget time. We pay for the over and aboves. So the garbage is over and above, right? So that's what we pay for separately, over and above.
So in your budget, you have budgeted X number of dollars for gravel.
No, not for the LED. In our whole budget, we have a gravel.
it's
The
at
whole
large.
budget, the whole
Yep.
gravel budget.
Yeah.
It actually says the LUD pays whatever, $2,000.
No,
No,
it's gravel is this amount of money spread between everybody.
it's based on your assessments.
So how do we know that you're actually paying? It's the same thing as grass cutting. Did you put in there, like, okay, it's X number of dollars for grass cutting?
There's grass cutting
No.
for the whole municipality.
Yeah.
So whatever ends up at the end of the year, then you just take that off?
No, there's nothing to take off, because what you're getting at is that we get different grass cutting in the LUD. So if you choose to go down that path that we get more grass cutting, we also have 1/4 of land in the LUD that has a $7.8 million value. So we're paying a lot more tax to look after that 1/4.
You're paying 3.5%.
No one pays 3.5%. Everybody pays the at-large fee that everybody pays. And the LUB, they pay additional taxes for the additional services they get. Like the LUDs, what they provide for is something different than what the rest of the municipality gets. So everybody gets the same base services, which doesn't include garbage pickup. Is usually the best example. The LUD chooses to have garbage pickup. If they chose not to, if they said we don't want garbage picked up at the houses, they'd get the same garbage everybody else gets. Haul it to the dump yourself. Because they choose to have it picked up, they pay on their taxes only in the LUD for the privilege of pickup.
The only difference is that I don't have a yard light outside of my house paid by the municipality. I don't have pavement
Okay, but
outside of my house paid by the municipality.
Someone
But-
on Cotton Drive does.
yeah, they.
Well,
So
but
you
not
can't
everybody does.
differentiate. You can't. So then the argument I've used to make that,
So 5 people
Is-
have pavement so that the rest of the valley has to pay for
the
everybody.
municipal handbook actually states very clearly you cannot tax within an LUD for something that is taxed for somewhere else at large already.
Yes,
that is
we went
asphalt.
through all this, yes.
So now if we want to pick what do we get for our taxes, and you want to nickel and dime like that, we need to go all the way along Highway 83 and pick every house on the highway because they get absolutely nothing. So then we need to differentiate taxes for who doesn't get this and who does get that, and who. So everybody gets a different tax rate because everybody's got something different. You've got a culvert right off your driveway. Maybe the next guy doesn't have a culvert anywhere on his land. That costs us more money. So
Yeah.
where the creek crosses the road there, like.
The RM road, like, not my driveway.
Yeah, but it runs for the creek over across. Do we need it? There's just differences to every parcel of
Well,
land.
then we should be taking, if you want to look at that way, we should be taking culverts out all over the place.
maybe we don't maintain gravel roads or anything.
Exactly.
Okay, we
So,
better move on.
well, that's what I mean. Like we could spend
Okay.
Make me
forever.
scared.
Back to the resolution at hand, because I moved away and took too long, it lost the mover and seconder. So who was that again?
Terry and Byron.
Who hit me and where's my hat? What was it?
Okay. Any further discussion on the financial report resolution? That's what we're still discussing. Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Got everybody? That's carried. We shall move to section 6, discussion. So we had a water event in Benito, and I wanted to go over that for the benefit of council, to bring you up to date on what happened. And certainly the folks at home, I think, are looking for that information as well. So the event happened on last Wednesday, so just under a week ago. What was initially discovered by staff in the morning was that there was less pressure than normal on the supply line coming from the wells, which is a flag if something's gone wrong. They looked into it. They were concerned that perhaps the wells were not pumping properly. So they had an electrician out to test the pumps and make sure they're getting the right amount of power. They were. So after that, the problem got escalated up into Scott and my world of something's wrong and this needs to get fixed. Throughout the afternoon, at some point, we stopped making water entirely. In the morning, we had been able to make a little bit of water, but then as time went on, there was no water at all really to come out of the system. So we were running entirely on reservoir. When no water was being made, staff made the decision to turn the pumps off, assuming that perhaps they were running dry, that we had run out of water in the wells and didn't want to burn the pumps out, so they turned them off. And that's an important thing to note because later on that caused a problem we didn't know of. Later in the day, when Scott and I arrived there, it was a little after 5. It was dark already, which complicated things. So we looked again to troubleshooting the issue. We've done some line patrolling already earlier in the day, but with it being dark, it's harder to patrol the line for leaks. So we started in on the process of, okay, let's turn the pumps on. Let's see what we get. Is there water here? We'll prove this out. So we did turn the pumps on, and we did get some pressure, not enough pressure to the plant, which indicates some sort of problem. And the question is, there's a bunch of options. It can be a leak in the line. It can be a leak in one of the wells because there's pipes that go out to the pump, and if one of them blew a hole in it, obviously your water would just be falling back into the well. And it could be check valves, although with both pumps running, a check valve shouldn't be an issue. That would be more of a pressure drop after. So we're doing some troubleshooting on that. When we tried to get that pressure, we still couldn't make any water, and that's when we discovered that there was no air in the water plant. So some of the valves are operating pneumatically, so they use an air compressor and compressed air to open and close the valves from the computer. But with no air, it couldn't properly open the valves. So we worked on the air compressor for a little bit. We're unsure as to the reason, but there's an extension cord runs from the air compressor across the entire floor to a different part of the plant to plug in, instead of it plugging in where it should. So we troubleshot all of that, and it turned out the compressor was dead. So we unplugged the compressor for a while. After it was unplugged a few minutes, it would run again. So we did actually build up some air, enough to open the valves and start making some water. We also discovered, some of this is just laughable, so we tried to use the phone somebody from the water plant, but the 4 button doesn't work. So you can't dial any number that has a 4 in it, which is somewhat restrictive when the area code's 204 and 431. And apparently it's been like that for some time. But nobody has replaced the phone out of fear of what it would cost to have a new phone. The problem, I guess, goes back like over a year. So that phone's been replaced. It now dials numbers. We brought a new air compressor in from the shop because while we built up pressure the first time, it then refused to run again and was losing pressure. When we brought the new air compressor in, a pipe was bumped, and the pipe was so corroded that it broke. So then we had a fairly major leak, which we had to just stop what we were doing because of the leak. So we had to get Dustin to come out from Benito Home Center for us to get some parts to repair the pipe so we could stop the leak. When we got that done, we discovered we were out of chlorine. So we just tried to make water, but there was no chlorine whatsoever, which was troubling. So if you follow the chlorine story a little bit, the time before last when we ordered chlorine, Whether the company got it wrong or we got it wrong, the wrong chlorine arrived. We got 2 little buckets of it instead of 2 big barrels of it. And normally we go through a barrel in a month. So the 2 little buckets are only enough for about a week. So we ordered chlorine again to replace the problem and put those 2 little buckets into a barrel. But then it was empty. And the thought had been the buckets would last until the weekend, but it was all gone. So we had to get Gardewine to come out and open the terminal for us because the chlorine had arrived in Swan but hadn't been delivered. So we went and picked up the chlorine, brought it out to Benito, got that all set up so we could chlorinate water. After the pipe was fixed and the compressor was fixed, we then started making water to be able to try and find out what was going on with the supply lines. So we did a bunch of troubleshooting out the wells, turning off different wells, turning off different valves. Eventually, through patrolling, we found that an air release valve in one of the manholes had gone bad. So what's supposed to happen is if any air gets in the system, the air burps out, but the water stays in. It had failed, and so it was releasing a 3/4 inch stream of water as quickly as it could under about 50 psi. So the water was coming out fairly quick. When we found it, it was coming out of the manhole, about 3-inch fountain coming out of the top of the manhole. So once we knew that, we could then actually start repairing. So we turned the pumps off again for the night, which was another mistake. It shouldn't be a mistake, but we'll get to why it's a mistake. So TNC was out in the morning. We actually had a spare one of those valves. So my understanding is one of those valves failed before. So preemptively, we had gotten more valves with the intention of replacing the other ones of the same age so that we wouldn't have a failure. But I guess the replacements were never done. So the valve's sitting there but wasn't put in. So they were able to put our valve in. We had to pump the manhole out, got going again on that. And when we went to make water again, we were again having a problem with no chlorine coming through the system. So we checked and the barrel was empty, which was troubling because it was a brand new barrel the night before. So apparently what happened was when the pumps were turned off, there's suction obviously on the back pressure, and the pump has failed on the chlorine tank to the point where it allows the chlorine to get sucked into the system. So it sucked the entire barrel in overnight, plus whatever had been left of that first barrel was why it was empty when the pumps had been off for a couple hours. So when we made water, we dumped quite a lot of water before we put any into the reservoir in an attempt to not have this be an issue. But as most people know, unfortunately, we didn't get it all. So the chlorine level in the reservoir went higher than it should have been. We typically try to run that reservoir between 1 and 1.5 milligrams per liter, I believe is our measurement on chlorine. We were testing as high as 9.5 at times in the reservoir. So while we were then making water, and the water we were making was good, some chlorine had gotten in it. It was just simply too strong. So a lot of people were tasting chlorine, smelling chlorine. It wasn't good. To try and resolve that problem, we filled the reservoir with water that was the minimum chlorine we could make in it. So you have to have at least 0.5 chlorine in the water. So we set the system to that, or at least we attempted to, and made water. You can't make it with none because it's not safe. You've got to have some chlorine in it. So the least chlorine we could put in to continually dilute what was in the reservoir. Once it was full, we called the fire department out, and we had them set up a hose off a hydrant, and we ran the hose out onto the old racetrack so the water wouldn't come back into town in the spring. It'll go the other way. And we dumped water there for several days to just waste enough water that we could continue to dilute the reservoir. So the latest measurements were basically back to the range we should be, but there's obviously still some highly chlorinated water in some of those pipes that's working its way out as people use it. And because people don't want to drink it as much, it's taking a little longer to use it from flushing toilets and such, but eventually it will disappear and we'll be good to go again. I haven't seen the numbers yet for how much water we put on the ground, but it's safe to say it's between 80 and 100,000 gallons we put on the field, so it'll be nice and green come springtime. We watered it really well, but it had to be done because if we had dumped it anywhere else, it would end up in the lagoon. We didn't want to put 100,000 gallons extra into the lagoon this time of year and risk overflowing it. So the ground was the best place to put it. To the point of the chlorine pump, when we tried to set the chlorine to that low amount, it would stop pumping. We turn it up, it would pump, turn it down, it would stop, which isn't typical. Some investigation on that revealed that the original chlorine pump that had been in there failed. When it failed, instead of a new one being purchased, an old one that was already known to be bad has been put back into service. So we were using a pump that was taken out for being bad, and that's what we've been chlorinating the water with. So staff is currently pricing a new pump. They're around $2,000. A lot of this comes down to lack of maintenance over the years there. It's been pretty bad. That pipe that was corroded simply should have been replaced a few years ago. Like, it didn't corrode like that overnight. It's been a long-standing issue that it's been corroded. There's another pipe there that's leaking that needs to be replaced as well, and that's been going on for some time too. Even something so simple as the phone, I think, is just a example of things not being fixed when they should have been fixed.
So these pipes, are they like 1-inch pipes or?
The particular one that was broke was only a half-inch pipe.
Okay.
It was fairly easy to fix. It was off the main water line. There's a sampling pipe comes out so you can sample the water.
Okay.
And just where that comes out, it was just rusted to the point where if you just bumped into it with your shoulder, that was it.
Does
So
the water services still come out and check the plant out and stuff?
twice a year we have a contractor come and check the plant. It does raise some interesting questions.
Well, maybe I'm wrong, but years ago I thought, well, Manitoba water.
And I suppose if it's not leaking, it's, why, like, you don't.
Green, if it's green, you should be looking at it.
I believe deferred maintenance is the correct term. There's a list of things that were deferred for some time, and
Well, they were recommended but deferred.
so in any case, we did, as far as now, resolve the problem. A new air compressor is being sought for the plant. The cord, we believe we've solved that problem as well. It probably was never needed. It was just a lack of understanding of how the plant worked. So there's some additional details I can share in camera, but that is the most of what happened with the water. Does anyone have questions on anything that transpired in those few days?
Is there enough in the reserve or whatever for in the utilities to cover this cost?
Undetermined, probably not. The TNC contracting work, they were only there about an hour, so mobilization plus that hour won't be a huge bill. The chlorine itself, it would be about $300 if chlorine was wasted. The chlorine pump for a couple $1,000, an air compressor for a few hundred. So it's not going to be a huge bill. It'll be some though.
$5,000.
Yeah, likely. So it could have been much worse if we'd run out of water, but it's a lot of small things. Even like that pipe, it was $5 a parts to fix the pipe. It's just it had never been done. And so then when it breaks off, you can't put pressure on that line or you have half-inch water coming at you. It's got to be repaired.
No, can't fix it with water in it either.
No. And we should probably, come spring, take a better look to some maintenance because, you know, if there's any more of those air valves that haven't been replaced and we have the replacements sitting there but they were never installed, we should take a maintenance day for planned maintenance and put those valves in and just do that preventative stuff that would keep this from being an issue. And we're going to do a little more training, I think. There were some things discovered during the process. Like I spent about 14 hours in that plant. Some of the things perhaps aren't exactly as they should be, so we're going to work on that. One example, just to give you a view, we have logs, so we log how much water we make each day. We also log how much water we send to distribution each day. And typically that would be a different number because we have our water's made and some of it we waste ourselves doing backwashes and some of it we just dump and some of it goes to bulk water and some of it goes out to the water meters. So the idea is we should know how much goes to bulk, how much goes to the water meters, and then we have a rough idea of how much we use for backwashes too. But the reports for the last several years, what has been passed down from operator to operator is you look at how much went to distribution, you write that down here, and then you copy that number over to how much water you made today. Well, there is a separate meter for that, and it should be a separate reading every day, but it was just being copied. And there's some other things with testing of manganese levels, which was resolved a couple of years ago, but somewhere in there that knowledge was lost. And so we have high-range manganese tests you should be using, but nobody knew what they were, so they weren't being used. So there's a few things we're going to correct there. And it's none of it was a show-stopping issue. It's just that knowledge was not passed along from the original operator to the next one. So we'll fix that. Given what went on and all the people that helped out, I did prepare a resolution tonight for council to consider. Whereas the Benito water utility experienced a failure at supply line which impacted the ability of the municipality to treat and supply water to its users, whereas municipal staff, contractors, and volunteers worked to resolve the problem, therefore be it resolved that the council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West commend the staff for their ingenuity and dedication to their work, note our appreciation to the Benito Fire Department for their assistance, recognize the Benito Home Center, Benito Premium Meats and Guardwine for their accommodations during the incident, and thank the residents and water users for their patience as the failure was resolved. Is there someone that would care to move that resolution?
Benito.
Councillor McGregor, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Kushniryk, any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favour? That is carried. 6.2, Interim Budget. Whereas Section 163 of the Municipal Act provides that the Council may adopt an interim operating budget to have effect only until the Council adopts the operating budget for the fiscal year, therefore be it resolved, the interim operating budget for the municipality, including all rural, urban, and at-large expenditures, shall be hereby adopted for the year 2024 as follows. Government services, 300,000. Protective services, 100,000. Transportation services, 500,000. Environmental services, 100,000. Public health services, 50,000. Environmental development, 50,000. Economic development, 50,000. Recreation and cultural services, 200,000. Capital asset purchases, fiscal services, 300,000. Utility, 200,000. Is there a mover for the resolution? Councillor Burick, someone to second the resolution? Councillor Neely.
That's just a question.
Go ahead.
Utility, what is it?
That would be water, would it not?
Yes.
Yes. Should it be 200 or should it be 100? Because typically utility budget is only around 100.
It can be.
Okay, so let's change that to 100. So that makes a little more sense. The point of this, you folks probably remember from last year when we did this, to be able to write a check come January, we must have an interim budget.
Exactly.
So we're certainly not suggesting these are the exact numbers. We're going to do our normal budget process, but we need some authorization to be able to spend money.
Just something to work with.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in that list that you're thinking we should make adjustments to, or do those look pretty good? I think this was copied from last year, is where this was sourced
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
We got all the wages and all that kind of stuff.
Most of the transportation services,
Or what about office?
government services covers the office.
Right, yeah.
And these are just the titles from that fiscal plan, so we just put some money in each one, so that there's something there. Our hope is to complete budgeting on time this year, if not early. All right, now we can still say that as a
It'll be
hope.
done by the end of February.
I'm hoping. Library is supposed to have their budget here in the next couple of weeks. Everything else is supposed to, that we rely on, is supposed to be here by February 1st. So we should have all of the pieces brought in, and then we just have to finish off.
And you just shared service, share slash.
They should negotiate soon, sooner rather than later. Any further discussion on the interim budget? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 6.3, Benito speed sign. The speed sign has been installed. Attached are a couple reports. So the sign has an option to run in what's called stealth mode, where it sits there and does its job but does not turn on its display. So the first report, December 12th to 16th, the sign was not displaying your speed or telling you to slow down. The second report, the 17th to 19th, is the days it has been displaying the speed. You'll notice there's about a 15 to 20% reduction in speeding when the sign turned on. The first evening it was on, I did spend a little time in Benito watching the show. And what a show it was. Pretty much every single vehicle that came down the highway, when the sign turned on, hit its brakes, because they were all speeding. The reports show that before the sign was active, over half of the people in that area had been speeding as they went by. Most notably, a few people had been traveling at a speed exceeding 85 kilometers an hour when they went by the skate park.
That's 50.
It's a 50 zone.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fast.
They must have good suspension.
They
on
must.
The railroad tracks.
They must. That is
But now
remarkable.
they don't. They did.
They had good for a while. But the sign, initial evidence says it's working. We have a subscription to this data service for a year included with the sign. After that, it's $300 or $400 a year. I doubt we would renew it. I think we'll just let the sign do its thing. But for the first year, we can see these numbers and see what it's doing on a daily basis, which is kind of neat. After that, I believe we can still see the numbers. We just have to drive out to the sign and plug into it to see them. But at least initially, it looks to be helping. In case you're wanting to go try out the sign, please remember you're not supposed to speed there. So I'll save you the trouble. From 50 to 55 kilometers an hour, the sign turns on its slow down light and stays yellow. When you go 56 kilometers or faster, the sign turns to red, the slow down light comes on, and it also flashes a police strobe light at you to encourage you to slow down further.
Guess I didn't see that yet.
So if you go through about 60, you see everything.
Yeah.
Wasn't speeding.
Well, I know they
What happened to go through 85?
slow me down.
We just mark you on the chart here as another person that doesn't know how to drive.
You know what would really slow them down is if you took one of those camera signs that shows that you're, put that right below it too. That would really.
Or a speeding camera.
Yeah, that would really
Oh, that's
Your
taking a
ticket will be
picture.
in the mail.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on that speed sign? I did want to note for people watching the meeting at home, I know some people are like, oh, look, Highways finally put up that sign, but
I know.
it's not Highways, it's Swan Valley West. Highways did not
I
install that.
corrected a couple people actually.
So that would be the same
He
down,
said, oh, Highway's fine. No.
Riding Mountain, and they put it up themselves.
That's right. You have to have permission from Highways, but Highways doesn't pay for it. So that was us trying to make Benito safer. 6-4, Benito Drop-In Center. So some of us were invited out to the Benito Drop-In Center for their annual Christmas dinner. I was invited as the Reeve. It's funny because these two got invited, but only because they're married to the people that were. They also invited the LUD committee members and their spouses. So 2 other councillors got to go, but not because they're councillors. So I felt a little special to be the only one invited from council proper. They indicated the first time they'd invited politicians for some time, so we had a great evening. We did end up having a long discussion with them about their centre and our plans, and I believe Councillor Kushniryk has prepared some discussion for 6-4 about whether or not we should consider supporting them for a capital project.
Well, I haven't really prepared it. We're going to wing it. So basically, I think anybody in Benito has noticed the drop-in center is really pulling their own weight, is trying to keep some sort of life on Main Street and providing a service for everybody. They do have some needs. They need some kitchen renos. They had a door issue in the back they've worked on. They've got a wall that's coming, well, it's moving away from the building, I guess, on the front. So they could use a little bit of extra funding. So we do have our contingency fund that we had for recreation. There's a fair chunk of that remaining. So we're looking to discuss if we can make a donation to the drop-in center to help out to keep that place serviceable.
Specific to the fund he's speaking of, we allocated $10,000 as a contingency for recreation Benito. We've used about $2,000 of it so far for the walking rental at the rink, and my mind's drawing a blank what the other thing was.
You put me on the spot.
It's just in case anything came up at the rink.
Oh.
We said like something that would,
Yeah.
let's say the plant went down or whatever. That's why
They
we
put
put
the
that there.
candy there for the Saturdays.
Okay, Saturday's candy went into there. So the question is to council if you wish to do anything, and if so, that would be the budget line to put it in, because that's the only place that has room to do it this year. But there's about $8,000 there available.
Of note, they are doing a lot of their own fundraising too, and they've been applying for grants and getting everything they can, so they aren't just sitting back holding a hand out either.
They somewhat indicated they would use the money for matching those grants, because most of those grants give them half and they have to come up with the other half.
Could this be considered similar to a hall type of thing?
Is, and they're trying to adapt, like they're known as more of a seniors drop-in, but they're trying to invite younger people and hold more events and bring more people out, so they're really trying to get more active.
They've changed their membership age now to 18. So 18 is senior. They point out they removed the word senior from the title, just the drop-in center.
29 is youth. Isn't it? Can't be both.
time ago.
Well, I don't know, it's sort of like a hall in a way, I'm just putting that similarity up there, you know. I don't know, I guess, in the town of Swan River, say, who does the town put money in for the senior center, do you know?
I don't know.
Or who owns that building?
It must be a non-profit owns it, I would think.
Doesn't the town pay for the Legion? Hall?
The town owns the
They
Legion.
get pay a huge portion.
They own the whole thing now.
Well, I wouldn't be opposed to giving them like a grant like we do the halls. Just saying,
Like, for the hall?
like we do for the Durban Hall.
Well,
we
that's
do-
sort of like.
We
what I'm
used to
thinking,
for the
but
Ken Hall, now
that's
we don't,
maybe like
we're
in-
not doing that this year, so
In this
that money could
situation, that
go.
might not be enough
that
money,
way.
that'll only fix the door, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, but I mean,
I think there's, what you say, 8,000 left?
There's 8,000 left of that budget
Ten
line.
budgeted,
but you
and
gotta
used
remember
two, so
too,
eight,
Durban
so
Hall
you
does a
want-
lot to keep their doors open and but they've come to us for, we've given extra as well.
Who is that, Gary?
I said Durban Hall, we've given a
Oh,
bit extra as
yeah.
well, but not $8,000. So,
No, I
just
guess
saying,
my
like-
question, Brad, would be, did they give you guys a figure? Or what they figure? it might
No, I
cost?
know their one project was 17,000, I think they said alone.
And that was the roof, correct?
No, that's the wall. Then they need the kitchen, the door I think they've done.
The roof is done, the door is done, I think.
Yeah,
So it's the wall
they
and
need
the
some
kitchen
kitchen
that's
work
left.
and they need the wall.
We promised them we would come discuss it at council. Was about as far as we went with our promising.
For this year or for next year's budget?
It'll be this year's budget.
This year's.
Yeah, we've still got 8 in
There's
there.
money there.
Yeah. I don't know. Say,
Again, it's the end of the year.
We can't
already.
afford-
It's almost the end of the year, right?
This is the final meeting of the year.
Yeah, no, but I mean, well, the money's there, like.
I'll be the one to throw. I was thinking out of the 8.5. It's kind of the main life left on Main Street, which is sad right now for people to go and a place to gather and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would actually agree to the 5.
Okay, so you two want to bring a
But
resolution?
not a 5 every year. This
Oh,
is a
a one
grant.
time.
This is a one-time grant, not a 5 every year. Not like our halls where we tried, not our halls, but you know what I meant.
Be it resolved that the council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West provide a one-time capital grant to the Benito Drop-In Center in the amount of $5,000. Does that capture what you both wanted to say?
5,000? Is that what you said?
I think so.
So Michelle has moved by Councillor Kushniryk and seconded by Councillor Blosha. Further discussion? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried.
They got somebody there that, a carpenter in the seniors group, like your dad, who could help
I
them out.
think they had a fair bit of help kicking around there, you know. If not, there's guys with equipment that can just push it over. So
Thank you.
yeah, you can go from one way or the other.
Kids
Yes,
there,
lots of
kids there.
help
Yeah.
that way.
Moving to 6.5, Mountain Dweller Media. A copy of the video services contract proposed for 2024 is attached. The client would pay $70 per meeting to the producer. Additional special meetings are also $70. Audio recording of a special meeting is $40. I believe these are all the same numbers we're working with for this year. So this would cover January 1st to December 31st, 2024. We have a resolution. Be it resolved that we renew the contract with Mountain Dweller Media for 2024. Moved by Councillor Blosha, seconded by Councillor Kushniryk. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 6.6, Public Utility Board. Letters attached from the PUB. They have decided they would like a full rate application instead of an update to the previous one. In the letter, they speak that we got an initial letter saying that we had to provide the audited 21 and 22 numbers, and we said, well, 21 is just about done, but 22 is not going to be done for a while. Do you wish to wait for it, or do you wish to go ahead with 21? So in the letter here, they're indicating that the 21 audit will be the numbers to be used for the rate study. We have until April 1st to file a full rate study instead of the update. And they note that they could fine us $100 per day if we do not meet the deadline. So that's mostly for information tonight.
So we're gonna make the deadline, right?
We sure are. 6.7, supplementary tax services. There's a proposed contract attached there. What's at issue here is that we have a bunch of supplementary tax notices that staff in the office have not had time to do. So these are things that have changed since the initial assessment run and the initial tax bills. Say, for example, you built a new shed on your property and it was completed at the end of June. You would pay taxes from July until the end of the year. So Assessment Services has provided us a list of those properties and the amounts. What needs to be done is we need to manually create tax bills for each of them and send them out to the people. For our best efforts, we just haven't been able to get it done because we just don't have enough staff in the office. So this is a proposal from Municipal Mentors, Inc. If you remember Wendy Wolf, she used to work for the province. She now has her own company. This is her company and some partners as well. So this would provide for Twyla Ludwig, who is a partner there, to, I believe, attend the office once to do the work, do any updates remotely. There's a scope of work listed there, which is essentially prepare those supplementary notices. They're proposing an hourly rate of $105 per hour to a maximum of 10 hours for a total of $1,050 for doing the work. So we need direction from council if we wish to do this. The other options you would have would be to hire somebody else, which we've spent some time trying. We thought we had someone to come do it for just an hourly, but it didn't work out. They couldn't find the time. Or we could put it on the list of things to do and hope for the best, which probably isn't advisable.
I say we hire this
Yeah,
girl
I
and get her
do,
done
just to get it done.
for $1,000.
Well, it's more than that, cause you gotta pay
Well,
for
yeah,
$50 an hour travel time and stuff like that, but really,
So we're gonna spend
The tax
$2,000.
and she knows how to do it, or they know how to do it.
The tax revenue will more than cover the cost.
Exactly.
No, so I mean, we're gonna pay $2,000
Exactly,
to
it just
get
needs to
money or
get
$40,000.
It'll be more in the vicinity of 50 to 75.
Okay, well, just a guess.
There's a lot of them, and a lot of
It's
it's
a good
Indemnities.
investment, let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
We would get the money eventually anyway, but imagine explaining to people why they get their 2023 tax bill in March of 24.
Yeah,
They wouldn't be pleased.
so this will be done by the end of the year or what? Not
Well,
necessarily early in
yeah.
January.
I would give her till early January, although she's pretty confident that she can motor through them pretty quick. I mean, you have a template and you have the formulas in there, so it's just a matter
You
of
got
adding and subtracting.
the assessment branch, give you all the information.
Yeah, they're sitting there waiting to be done.
Be resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West approve the proposed contract with Municipal Mentors Inc. to provide supplementary tax notices for the 2023 year. Be it further resolved, the CAO be authorized to sign the contract. Moved by Councillor Neely, I believe. Is there someone to second the resolution?
Councillor Blosha, I think.
I think I seconded it, yeah.
Good job. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 6.8 we dealt with earlier in the meeting, the purchase services. Move on to 6.9. Remuneration bylaw. We discussed about 6 months ago making some changes to the old bylaw. The changes we had discussed at that time were clarifying if you got paid hourly for your driving time. So for example, you live a half hour from the meeting, you drive for half an hour to get here, the kilometers were clear. What was unclear was if you received a half hour pay for the time of driving to, for example, a committee meeting or a special meeting, as compared to someone that lived closer to Swan that maybe only drives 5 minutes to get to the meeting. At that time, the direction from council was to provide a revised bylaw that would show that you did get paid for that time. And then earlier in the meeting, we discussed that issue of it being somewhat unclear about what happens if a meeting is cancelled. So presented tonight is bylaw 10423, which is a roll-up of the original bylaw. The bylaw amendments from 9622 are in there, plus then those proposed changes and some wording changes as well. And in proofing this earlier, I see there's a little bit of grammar issues in it that need to be resolved yet. But for first reading, it at least gets the point across. What does not change in here is the amount per month or the amount per hour. Those are $11.25 for the Reeve, $8.35 for Deputy Reeve. Councillors are $8.05. The hourly rate of $23 remains. It does, however, change the per kilometer rate to whatever the CRA says it is annually. And there's an issue here that's of interest, and hopefully your auditor's not watching. At current, we're paying 70 cents a kilometer. That is not the CRA rate. The CRA has defined the rate as 68 cents a kilometer. The problem is, if you are paid more than the CRA rate, the entire rate is taxable to you. So if you're paid 70 cents, you must pay tax on the 70 cents. If you're paid 68 cents, it's tax-free. So this was written to be that CRA rate to keep the mileage tax-free. Otherwise, you have to claim everything you've had for mileage in the year. It would then also automatically change as the CRA updates the rate from year to year, rather than us always having to bring a resolution or change a bylaw, which is probably smarter to not have to do that all the time.
It's not that much different.
No. It would probably be better for the auditing. The other note to that CRA ruling is that it must be actual mileage. So if you say from Swan River to Winnipeg is this much, but you actually drove from Bozeman to Winnipeg, you have to do Bozeman to Winnipeg or it's not tax-free. If you just randomly pick a place, that's not actual reimbursement. It has to reflect the mileage you actually drove. So when you're doing those reports, make sure that you're being accurate. Because if you're guessing numbers, it's taxable income. Other changes here, mostly it's in wording. So this captures the essence of everything. The cell phone thing is still here for $60. It says that if you're absent from a regular scheduled meeting, so if a meeting's not scheduled, you can't be absent. It just clarifies that. It talks about local travel, which was in there already. It used to be travel within the municipality to committee meetings was okay. But that technically speaking, if your committee meeting was in Swan River, you couldn't be reimbursed the time or the hours or kilometers for going to it because it was outside our municipality.
And we're, yeah.
So there's a change here that basically says the G4 municipal area is our boundaries. So if your committee meeting is someplace in the valley, you can drive to the meeting, you can be paid the kilometers, you can be paid for the hours. If it's outside of that, you need council approval, which was the original
Which is what we
intent.
do.
It just wasn't what was written down. What was written down was if your meeting's in Swan River, you're out. Unless you come to council first and get a resolution passed, you can't be paid for it, which was kind of silly. It says that members of council shall only be paid for meetings, conferences, or municipal business outside of the local travel area if they're authorized by this bylaw or resolution. It then provides that Reeve is authorized to attend meetings and business outside the local travel area, but conferences require council approval. And then it speaks to the members, the daily rates of $195. So it clarified in here what a full day is. It's at least 4 hours becomes a full day. Less than 4 hours is a half day at the half day rate. So there's no more prorating by the number of minutes, because it used to be it was 4 hours and 17 minutes, and you started doing math on it, which was just insane. No one could keep track of it. It speaks to hotel accommodations. It also speaks to if you stay at a private residence instead of a hotel, there's $50 for compensation. That was never spelled out before, but I think that was kind of the practice sometime.
No, I don't
It wasn't?
think so. No.
So we should discuss, is that something we want to put in there? I think it's, I guess, cheaper than a hotel, so good. And there's
No, we
obviously some
never.
expense.
Yes, I stayed.
It authorizes the 2 AMN meetings and the district meetings, so we don't have to forever be bringing a resolution back here to say this person's allowed to go, that person's allowed to go. But anything outside of that would be that same process. It speaks to meal expenses in accordance with whatever our meal policy is at the time, which is maintained separately. And it speaks to road and municipal inspections, says that it's per kilometer and per hour for what's considered reasonable by the council. It doesn't try to spell out what reasonable is. It says that payments will be reviewed monthly by the council and approved ex post facto, which means that that's what we're doing. Those checks were issued on the 15th already, even though we're approving them here at the 19th. So it means the checks get issued normally on the 15th. But then if we don't approve it here, if we say, well, I'm sorry, but you did something, we're not paying you for that, you have 30 days to give the money back. So that hasn't ever been a problem, but should someone do something silly, it gives us that opportunity to say, well, we know you paid it, but you have to give it back. And then it repeals both 9622 and 7919.
So travel time to meetings, you're just like special meetings or committee meetings, right?
Right, a regular meeting like tonight, you get the mileage, but you get no time
Right.
whatsoever,
Yeah, we never put time down for that.
because it's included in your monthly fees. Does anyone want to entertain changes to any of those fees? Are we good with what they are? Do we want to change them? Now would be the time to make changes to hourly amounts if you wanted to, or do you want to leave them as is?
68 cents, that's our kilometer rate now.
68 is 23.
Yeah.
24 hasn't been announced yet.
It's what?
The 24 kilometer rate hasn't been announced yet. I doubt it will go down,
No.
Oh.
because the CRA
So,
announces
but we've
every
been-
year.
We've been putting 70 in this year,
We
right?
have been,
That's the way the bylaw was
yes.
written, what, a year ago, a couple of years ago?
Yeah. So technically speaking, any kilometers that's 70 is fully taxable. Which,
Well, for some guys, like yourself, you know, you put on way more than the rest of us.
no.
You're better off at 68 cents and no tax,
Yeah.
or a bit better off, you know. Yeah. So, we'll be putting down 68 cents from now on, right?
Well, and we,
Or we
technically
can't
speaking, we-
change for,
until this is passed,
right?
we can't change, and we can't pass it all tonight. We can do first reading tonight, we'll come back to it next meeting with whatever changes we want to make to it. But really, in the grand scheme of things, we shouldn't have to write down the price per kilometer. We should just be writing down the number of kilometers.
Yeah.
And then that should all be taken care of, right? Like, it's not for us to figure out how much the per kilometer hour rate is. That's what we have qualified people for. That just make sure that everything's the same and that we all have the same amounts, and it'll sort itself out. Is there any other discussion on this? The grammar I saw was, I believe, in, was it number 2 maybe? It was through the editing process, it's 2 thoughts melded together without the right words put in there. Maybe it was in 3, I'll find it back at some point, but there's something in here, just the wording was really clunky, it needs to be fixed. Oh, and the other thing that was different is in number 1, so it speaks to that monthly amount. So it says that you paid that for a full month on council, but anything more than 2 weeks is a full month. And the thought process there was, when there's an election, the election is usually after 3 weeks of council time. So those people that did not win the election would still be paid that month, and then they're done. The people that won the election and were only here for 1 week would not get paid that month. They would start getting paid the 1st of November. If you won the election and had been on council, it would make no difference to you whatsoever, because you get paid the month and just carry on normally. So it tried to spell it out rather than trying to divide out the days again for. And if you were to leave council for some reason, if you're here for at least half of the month, you get paid for the month. If you leave a couple days into the month, you get nothing for the month. Just to make it easier for figuring. So resolution, be it resolved that bylaw 010423 be read a first time this 19th day of December 2023. Is there a
Can
mover?
I ask for clarification again now?
Sure.
We went through that now. When we get paid for traveling time to a special meeting or to a
Committee.
committee meeting,
Yes,
we do.
but not to a regular meeting.
Not, I know, not for regular, yeah, but
Yeah,
for,
but
because
committee and special meetings you get paid.
okay,
But you get paid your kilometers
Yes.
kilometers plus hours.
for, not for this meeting, no.
You
Not for
always,
this
you get kilometers for this meeting,
Yeah.
but the time is included in your
Right.
monthly.
But for
But for any
special-
other meeting, you get kilometers and the time.
Yeah, right, that's it.
So, example, Bedford,
Yes.
they pay separate,
There's a thing in here that says unless paid by the,
okay.
so for
So I don't
that,
put in my traveling time to go to that, okay.
Because there are,
And isn't that
there
how
are
the
other,
watershed is as
there are other
well?
committees too, watershed.
So I think,
Yeah.
yeah, watershed pays.
Watershed pays it.
yeah. And I
Okay,
think, I think it's in here someplace, it says that. Oh, yes, number 5. Unless compensation is paid otherwise by that committee or
Oh, yeah.
organization.
You're right.
Is there someone to move the resolution for first reading? Councillor Kushniryk, and someone to second it? Councillor Zbirun. Any further discussion? So I would urge council to give it a read, write changes down, send them to the CAO or me or both. Probably both would be easiest, and for sure we see it one way or the other. And then for second reading, we'll put any of those changes in, and I'm gonna fix, when I find that grammar error, I'm gonna fix
We
it.
can change up to the third reading, can't we?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, but if there's changes, we'll get them in so it's ready for second reading next meeting. Any further discussion? If not, we'll call the question as in favor. That is carried. Committee assignments. Each year at this time, we review our assigned committees and we make any changes that are agreed to by council. So, how is everyone feeling with their committees? Is there anybody wanting to swap or trade? Are there any concerns? Are we all happy where we are to go with that for another year? What are the thoughts of the group? If it sure sounds like everybody's happy, but if there's meetings you're having trouble making, you could look at trading that with somebody else. Whatever you want for options, it's just we have to review it once a year.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
So we have a resolution to that effect. Whereas the council reviews the committee appointments each year and makes revisions as needed, therefore be it resolved the committee appointments remain the same for the 2024 calendar year. Is there a mover? Councillor Burick and Councillor Blosha. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favour? That is carried.
Hasn't been many meetings.
Very quiet.
6.4 Public Works Report. He tried to email this and it didn't work, so he ended up texting it to me. So let me go get it. Oops. Here it is. So this is from our lead hand, Scott Stenberg, Public Works Report for December 19th. Installed speed sign Benito, hauled more clay from Ivan Podolsky's to German landfill. Scrape intersections. Maintenance and repair unit 38. Maintenance and repairs to tandem. Maintenance and repair to tandem trailer. Maintenance and repair to cat-wheeled backhoe. Install one-way and plumb onto unit. Install wing pin and elephant ear on unit 51 and 56, it looks like. Brushing with JD 210 Alpine area, moving north. Skid steer arrived and is brushing along with JT 210 in the south area. Spot gravel road 172 north of 83 and 203 east. I think we talked about that last meeting. Clean and organized shops. Mount sander to the front of 3-ton Benito garbage truck. I think that's instead of unit 38, if I would be right. We have a transportation meeting scheduled tentatively for January 11th.
11, yeah.
It's Thursday the 11th at 10 a.m. Does that date work for folks? Would you like a different date, or is that doable?
Pardon me?
January 11th,
January 11th or 10.
10 a.m.
Thursday.
That's fairly doable. Okay.
Now it is.
All right, so we'll leave it there. The next week, Scott is doing training for MPI for our safety certification, but that week he's available, so we'll have him on the Thursday to come join us. I will probably schedule it for 2 hours, but hopefully we'll be done before then, but if not, we'll wrap it up at 12 one way or the other.
You bank maybe 4 hours maybe.
It will not be 4 hours.
Was
No,
that
2
the-
hours isn't it?
the
Like
11th?
2 hours,
11th.
you should be able to get it.
10 a.m. or 11th.
I'll be 2 hours just myself.
No, you get 10 minutes.
I don't profess to know a lot more about that report, but are there any questions on the transportation report you want me to try to answer?
What's the plan? How long is that machine gonna work in that south end?
Which machine? The scrubber?
The John Deere?
Till it's done.
So it breaks down.
They're working north, so they'll just keep working
Because like, I
north.
mean, Carrie and I, we've had that 216 and 161 for a long
Did
time.
you get out there? Did you?
I've been through there, yeah. I
You
mean,
look
it's
at
not
it,
bad now because
nothing's
the leaves
scrubbed
are
up.
off,
Yeah,
but I
nothing's
mean,
scrubbed up, though.
we've been after that all summer.
Yeah, nothing's scrubbed.
No.
Oh, that's current year. Wards 1, 2, 3, that's last year's stuff.
So like, I mean, I'm not saying it has to be right away, but if they scrub for 2-3 weeks there, can they move a little bit? Or, I mean, if it
The
snows,
little
they're
one's
done.
easier to move. The big one costs.
No, we don't need the big one, we just need the small one. Ain't there, the small one?
That one ditch over there, not that pretty out of Scott would have to look at it, I guess, to see. I don't know what the machine's capable of, but.
So I think we'll sort of ask Scott to have some thoughts on that when he comes to the transportation meeting. see where we're at, and see what he's thinking could be done for allocation of time. Because it's a lot more transportable, the small one, because it's just a tandem with a trailer, right? So it can haul off and go wherever for the day. It's not
Get a
stuck.
trailer for it?
We've got the big heavy trailer. Is it what's on?
Yeah, our pintle hitch one I think is
Oh, it's a
26,000
rental
pounds.
that you're using? Oh.
Yeah. So I have that. Where is it?
And what are we pulling it around with?
With the tandem, I think, isn't it? Do you have
Yep.
a picture? Oh, he has a picture.
It's not a great picture, but there you go.
Oh man, look at that, see, you just.
Oh, you're pulling it around with a tandem?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's a dually.
Yeah, so that trailer will handle
Tandem
it.
dually, eh? Isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's big enough to actually hold it like it should. Anything else on Public Works? We'll move to 7.1. So we received a letter earlier today addressed to myself and council. When something is addressed to council, it's required we bring it to you because it's for council to see. So the letter says, please tell us, we the people, that this is not true. If so, we do not consent to this agenda and it must be revised immediately. This is against the law and has to be reversed as soon as possible. We do not vote for this. We do not consent. Signed, we the people. It does not contain a name or signature attached to it, with some concerns about whether or not I was acting as a United Nations global mayor. It suggests that proper representation would include an oath of office, which is allowed for the public to see, would be voted on in the election, and that we have the authority to collect tax and charge directly. So the request was for us to speak to whether we do that, and in fact we are elected at an election, which is fair and open and accountable, and is audited to make sure it's good. There were no concerns expressed at the election time about that voting process. That was all clean. We did all sign an oath of office, and I can advise that some members of the public have viewed those oaths of office to ensure that that was done. And we do have the authority to effect taxes. We do not work for the United Nations. We do not take direction from them in any way, shape, or form. And I can tell you that we have never been contacted by them to suggest that we take a certain course of action here at Council. So I assure the folks that we are indeed operating as a rightfully elected public government. Any discussion on 7.1?
Do you know who we the people are?
I have some guesses, but it doesn't say on the letter.
That this is not true. What are they
Because I
talking
mean, usually when you
The
get
second page,
usually, so there's another page there.
yeah.
Usually when
You
you get a
go in
letter,
your city hall, that thing?
Hmm.
usually when you get a letter, it's gotta be signed by somebody.
That would be appreciated.
Yeah.
But given the concern, I thought it was appropriate we address it. Moving to 8.1, engineered rubber aggregate. Attached is a copy of a very long contract. Now, we did speak to this gentleman earlier,
I read that.
and he said, oh, well, it doesn't have to be so wordy. You could take a bunch of that out.
They say the same thing over and over.
But there's still,
So with that in mind, my great suggestion is we just move this all along to next year.
yeah, I think so.
This is not a tonight worry, I don't think. We'll look at this again, and we might even send it to Transportation Committee, because they can spend some time worrying about it.
Did we have a project in mind? I think I asked that at the last meeting. Did we think there was somewhere where we could try this, or?
There's a
Did
few
you see around
spots,
Benito there was something?
a few spots by Thunder Hill that were really bad this last spring.
So this is supposed to, this miracle juice is supposed to do what?
It's supposed to keep you from having frost heaves and frost swells and softness. So essentially what the claim is, you put this into the road instead of rock, and it insulates the road so the water can't come up through it, and the frost can't go down to the water. So it's supposed to keep your road stable.
Well, it will be happening in January anyway, so we
Well,
can.
it'll be rather expensive. Yeah.
The material's free to us. The question is the installing it part. It's probably, by the time we put it there, similar in price to if we put rock, maybe cheaper, because we wouldn't have to buy the rock. You know, typically what
Rock
we would
and
do,
geo?
well, typically we would rip the road out, put rock in, put geo in, put the road back.
This won't be-
So we wouldn't put the geo in, because this replaces the geo and the rock. So in theory, it would be cheaper. We'd certainly want to try it one place first. They've been doing this around Winnipeg a lot. They say it works well.
So the raw material would be tires or what?
tires,
From the landfill?
right? And they're responsible for chipping them up into pieces and making us a pile of it. And then when we want to do the project, we haul it to the site and put it in.
We haul it, or they said they do everything?
No.
We haul it, but there is a grant program available for the while, so projects that are done soon enough get a grant from them to help pay for it. But typically speaking, if you missed the grant, you would pay for hauling it and installing
And
it.
then you'd have to haul your rock too anyway, so.
Right.
Does the environment say anything about having a pile of chewed up rubber?
They seem to like it
Is that right?
better than it being in a landfill, apparently. They ask that it be stored someplace where there's no primary fuel. So the theory is if you throw a match in a pile of tires, nothing happens.
Okay.
But if you throw a match in a bunch of
Oil that's
wood or
beside it,
something,
yeah.
right, that'll catch fire. So it has to be stored someplace where there isn't that primary fuel that a match can light. So if someone lights the pile on fire, it's because they took some diesel fuel out there and really worked at it. So, you know, it's considered safe from that aspect of it. I guess as safe as all those ties have been at Kenville for 2 years.
Yeah.
Because same thing, right? Like that's extremely flammable stuff just to have sitting there in a pile, but yet they do it. So if everyone's in agreement, we'll send that off to transportation or some committee someplace to look at for a while and try to make heads or tails of that contract.
No, find a spot and talk it over. And
We were thinking old gravel pit. You know, like one that we've already used the
Well,
gravel
we need
from?
to store the stuff.
Yeah, put it there, because there's nothing else around, right? Carry
Not
on.
any use to anybody, they're not gonna steal it.
8.2, you'll remember this from last meeting, Councillor Neely was going to do some research.
okay.
Is that something we should discuss here, or shall we move that in camera for you?
Well, I'll just tell you a little bit. I talked to the landowner on the corner there, and I asked, well, what about drainage and any flooding issues? I said, all my years on council in that ward, I've never had a call from anybody out there. And he just laughed. He said, no. He said, I had a great big pile of snow right along that road last year from all the snow in the yard. He said, I don't know where it went. It just disappeared. I said, well, the land is so sandy there. You know, I have never had a call from anybody out there. I checked the length of the road on GPS. It's 200 meters. That's the whole road right to the cul-de-sac. I don't know if there's a 3-to-1 slope in the ditch, and I don't know if there's 18-inch rise to the ground on the road from the bottom of the ditch. It's not a real deep ditch, but there's no water. There's never any water there. I don't know how else to explain it. He just laughed. But, he has bought all that property now, except the 2 existing lots that were there already. So the other 2 on the east side of the road. So they own all, there's 4 lots there now, I think, that, and he wants to put up a shed and stuff out back. And, I don't know, I think, if I'm reading this right, a caveat is something that we have in place that has to be done before we'll take over possession of that road. Is that what it means?
Well, there's
I'm
2
trying
parts
figure
to
it
it.
out.
So there's us taking over the road as part of it,
Yeah,
which I suspect we probably already plow that road. But the second part of it is they were responsible for paying for certain things before we took it over. So the street light and the road
yeah,
were the
that's
2
another
things.
thing I wanna mention. If there's a street light needed anywhere, it's half a mile west of there at the airport corner. I mean, there's no street lights anywhere out in the country except the, Pot Drive area. Well, that's a highly dense, more densely populated area. There's 2 dwellings out there right now, not 42. Like, to me, I don't know why we ever put that in there in the first place back in 2014. It went right over my head. I didn't even, but I don't think it's necessary. A light there, a stop sign would be good.
Yeah.
There's only one person that lives past there. And I can't see anybody else going in there in the near future. Even if there was only maybe a couple more households at the most.
So our options are, we can enforce the agreement as it's written and require a streetlight be put in, and we can measure that road and make it however we like, or do it and charge them for it. we can negotiate with them and say we're not wanting to force them to do everything, but that some things still need to be done. Or we can say we're satisfied with the status quo, how it is, and release them from their obligations.
Well, really,
There is.
So,
there
so
hasn't
one
been
guy,
anything really done there since we went to look at it that time. And there has been no issues there.
No.
one guy owns 4 out of 6 lots,
Yeah, no, one guy owned them before.
and we've never
Now
received,
they've changed hands.
One guy owned them before, now they've sold.
we've never received a complaint from anyone saying, hey, we were told we were getting a street light.
No.
And
As
he
I
talked
say,
to the
there's
person
only-
that owned it.
Yeah,
There was only one residence there before, until about, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago maybe. The new people built a house right on the corner.
mm-hmm.
And it's actually on Road 214 now, not on that little street. It's facing 214. I don't know, I'm just telling you what I've gone through over the years. Nothing.
Well, you know more about it than any of us.
Well, I've
because,
never had an
you
issue.
know, because you were here then.
I've never ever had an issue out there, and the road's only 200 yards long. You know, it looks nice, it was really icy that day, you know, when I went there, that was right after the rain and stuff. But every road was icy.
Did you fix it up where that ice that Riddle, remember?
Yes, by the airport.
Fixed up?
Yes, I called Pat and Swan Valley Solutions came out early the next morning. I thought it looked like something was done. And I phoned Dustin and had him come to my place and give me a shot. So I asked the kid that was driving the truck. I said, did you do by the airport? Well, I did it early this morning, he said, but I might have to give it another shot. I said, yeah, it wouldn't hurt. I had a hard time telling whether he'd done it or not. But then he did pretty good the next day.
So are we agreeable to removing
Yep.
the conditions?
The street light, the 3-to-1 back slope, because there is no back slope. This goes down, it's a field, so, you know. The road's already built up higher than the adjacent properties.
So, resolution, be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West release the owners from the remaining conditions of caveat registration 109-7295/6 for lots 1 through 6 of northwest quarter of 2336-27 West, with no payment owing to either party. Is there someone like to move the resolution? Councillor Neely. Is there someone to second the resolution? Councillor
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Blosha.
Councillor Blosha.
Blosha.
Any further discussion?
Should we put in there that they're not gonna be responsible for any damages that occurs because they never did this?
We could.
Just thought, I mean, in 5 years from now, I mean, we could have snow up to top of the roofs and
So,
be flood damage and whatnot.
and we take,
Not just to cover our own,
Technically speaking, it's our road.
that's what I was gonna say, we take ownership of it now,
oh,
right?
is that right?
I think we probably already own it.
I think we've already been
I
plowing.
think
Are we allowed to put in there that we will maintain the road to its current standards, so they can't come at us as soon as it's done and say, oh, we want this slope and we want,
Well, as much as anyone else can come at us.
so.
How well does it work
Then
when
that's-
somebody
we're
else
good.
tells us how to build a road?
Same.
The guy that lives on the corner now maintains it now. So he, I mean, he's been looking after it
Does it
for a
all.
number of.
It's
winters.
basically his laneway for the most
Oh,
part.
well, that's
Yeah.
the wrong laneway, yeah, but there is another house down there
Mhm.
on the other side.
So do we want to make a change or we're going to leave it as this?
I think you're fine.
Go.
Okay, any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor? That's carried.
I tried to figure out what caveat means, but every time you read something, you get more confused.
We'll go to committee reports. We do have an in-camera session scheduled for 9 with our auditors, just so we're aware of the time. We'll start with Councillor Zbirun.
Nothing.
Councillor Kushniryk.
Had LED and fireboard. I'll leave fireboard for you. LED, we did our service plan for the upcoming year and kind of have one question. We ended up buying all the candy for the Santa Day, which didn't happen. So does anyone have any suggestions where that candy should go?
Well, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Right there.
Oh, they didn't, oh, yeah, okay, I guess that's too bad. Is there anywhere else that would be having?
What's the shelf life?
I don't even know what's all in there for sure.
The library's looking for prizes for summer reading if it lasts till summer. Well, if we did that long.
Probably be okay. We'll look at it then.
Okay.
The Reeve needs stuff to throw
That's a
out the
good
parade
idea.
next year.
Yeah.
A year old can
The
be.
Reeve needs some members of council to go with him to the parade next year as well.
May I suggest this year, we provide things for the people watching to throw at the Reeve.
After last year, they won't be able to hit him, he's a moving target. Running down the street.
Check your dates on it and then.
Who hit me and where it went out?
Any other things to report, Councillor Kushniryk?
No, I think that's about it.
Councillor McGregor.
Attended a library meeting. The first thing on here was budget meeting. We'll be working on the budget in January 10th, so start getting on that for the library.
So you said January 10th?
Yeah.
Write that down. Keep going.
Just sorting out the Christmas hours over Christmas. There was some talk of Swan being closed and Benito being open. They decided to make sure they were both the same. There was 2 casual hired for Benito, but they were just casual and were short. What else I got here? There was some talk about might have to review the head librarian's wage to attract a head librarian. But we'll be talking about that at the next meeting. The fundraising they did a Mrs. Claus visit with Miss Claus, it was a success. I think that's pretty much it for now.
Councillor Blosha.
I actually didn't have any meetings, but regular meetings this month.
Councillor Neely.
Nothing to report.
Councillor Burick.
No committee meetings, very quiet.
Oh, we should put you all on some more committees.
There's just a few questions I have.
Okay.
I was just traveling, we went to Yorkton the other day, and I noticed that sign on the south end of the valley, welcoming into the valley.
Mm-hmm.
Why was it never upgraded like that? About 6 years ago, we talked about redoing those signs, putting Swan Valley West, and redoing them, but I mean, there still are no Swan River. Why were they never done?
I would presume council never passed a resolution to do it.
Because we talked about it, like, say, about 6 years ago, on both ends.
Oh, did it not get done up north? Never got done there either, Pamper Corner.
We should also, there should be a sign coming in from Saskatchewan, and our sign coming in from Minnetonka is laughable.
What's that big?
I think the one coming
It falls over once in a
down the
while,
hill,
too.
that could be
Anyways, I thought I'd bring that up.
Like the Match Lake one, I think.
Also, I
Nice
brought up,
one.
I think in the spring, about lights on 49 Highway,
That's a
303, 279, Pioneer.
budget difference.
And even at the museum, I think the museum did come to us at one time asking for a street light, and I don't know what happened there, but it's bad. Like, I mean, especially right now, everybody's driving and see those Christmas lights, beautiful in there, but you can't see where the approach is. And at least when you drive in there with bright lights, you can see not too bad, but on the highway, you gotta have dim lights. You can't see no turn there. And I don't know why we don't put one on. There's a switch.
Cost,
That is only for-
cost is why.
I know, but
Highways.
cost, but I mean,
Highways.
once it's done, it's done.
So I can advise that we've discussed that here, as you know. Had one on the list of things to do to get quotes from Hydro to see what it was going to cost. But so far as yet, I don't believe staff has had time to do that, and I haven't either.
Yeah, and we did ask for quotes.
Yeah.
It was, I think it was this spring, so.
The intention is to get quotes and then come back with those quotes and see the look on people's faces when you see what it's going to cost to put them in, and then make a decision.
But on those, also, like I say, on those highways too, 49, 279, I think Pioneer Corner, I said. And even I noticed when we went to that banquet in Durban, There's nothing at that corner there. If you didn't see the stop sign, you go right through.
And some of
Every
those,
other street, or every other road we got. right?
And that's highways.
some of those we may be better off petitioning the minister for.
Yeah, yeah.
It'd be good to know what the cost is.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll have a rough cost from that museum intersection, but to know kind of what the cost would be there, and then send a letter off to the minister saying it would only cost you this much to do it, and it would be a safety concern. They will no doubt say that there's a traffic count for Durban, so there's not enough traffic on that road to do it, but it doesn't stop us from asking.
And then, even on our shop, the RM shop, they still have the RM sign on there. I thought we ordered a Swan Valley West one. I don't know.
It's the wrong size.
It's the wrong size. It should be 4 times that size, but still it's the old RM Swan River one.
Now the good news is we did get the Benito water plant sign fixed that you couldn't read anymore.
Good.
It has a nice new one up there. It looks good, and the signs are on my radar for fixing.
Good. There's one thing I just want to ask too. I know years ago we talked about building a new shop for the arm of Swan River, or Swan Valley West. They built that shop that we have now, I call it the Crooked Shop. What was the reason for that shop?
To keep the mowers from being rained on.
To keep the mowers from being rained on. It's a pretty expensive shop to keep the mowers from being rained on.
Wasn't an expensive shop, it got paid for.
I know, but I mean, if you added that money to a new municipal shop,
But the
you'd
Well,
money,
that could have
the
been
money
a
that
new
could have
shop.
been an expensive shop, but the money that we sold another property and built the shop. So you got a nice shop
I
now.
think Carrie was just a waste of money.
Well, that's fine, that's what you
It's a
think.
waste of money. Like right now, it's half of a fire hall that went.
Yeah, but if the fire hall wasn't there, it's a pretty big building.
You do what, you can't work it in the wintertime, it's not insulated, it's not. No
Well,
solar.
that's all, that can all be.
They can all be changed.
That can all be added in.
But anyways, are we still gonna discuss a shop in the future or no?
Are you buying lottery tickets?
No, but I mean, it's something that we have, because, I mean, if you don't talk about it, it could be 10 years, we don't see one.
Well, we need to do capital planning as
Yeah,
part of
that's
our
what I'm
budget
saying.
cycle, so we can
Yep.
certainly discuss it.
Yeah.
I don't know, I will poll the group for what the view is on building the shop. I know certainly there are many voices out there that say we should replace the Swan shop, the Durban shop, and the Benito shop,
Well,
because they're all old and small.
Yeah.
And you know, when you scratch that hill, Public Works will gladly tell you all the reasons they should all be replaced with newer, bigger structures. Are we going to do it all? My suspicion is no, because of money, but that doesn't mean we can't figure out a plan. And, you know, we could begin saving for it, we could, there's a variety of options.
The one thing we might have a chance at is a fire hall in Benito, right? Because
Well,
there could be grants available.
Yes, there is.
for that.
We did apply for money for that, didn't we?
So we have an application in,
Yeah.
we're expecting an answer in mid-January to
Yeah.
whether we receive the grant or not. Things are probably more likely than not likely that we will receive it. However, there's a substantial number of applications for that particular grant. But being a fire hall, it should score higher.
Well, sure need it there, I know that.
Anything else, Councillor Burick? So I'll keep it kind of short in the interest of getting to our in-camera session here in a minute. I did attend Fire Board organizational meeting for the most part. We're working on incorporating the Fire Board, Swan Valley Fire Board Inc., setting up the insurance, setting up all those things to be running for January 1st. A request has gone out to the affected CAOs for portion assessments to do the calculations for how that is charged for and such. There wasn't a lot of other meat and potatoes at that meeting. I don't think there's anything else that's drastically urgent, would you say, from that meeting?
Not really, no.
We're gonna firm up the chair. He's apparently doesn't have your cell phone number, so I'm gonna give him your cell phone number so he can text you and email you to make sure at future meetings. And then that should fix up that issue of attendance. Any other discussion for committee reports or communications? Okay. Hearing none, we will take our lifestyle break. We have the auditors scheduled at 9, so you're all doing that. I'm going to get set up here because it's video tonight with the auditors. So if you could hurry. I'd try to be
Yeah.
back towards 9, that'd be good.
7 minutes and
So
count.
what, you
Yeah.
can put it there or over there?
I'm going to put it here, I think, and we'll just all turn that way and face it.
Didn't we?
We are adjourned for now. Oh, we welcome everybody back to the meeting. We're going to 10.1 on the agenda. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 1523 of the Municipal Act, Council shall meet as a committee of the whole, close the meeting, and continue discussions in camera regarding personnel matters, negotiations and preliminary discussions, and unresolved legal matters. Is there a mover for the resolution? Councillor Burick, and seconded by Councillor Kushniryk. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We'll go to the in-camera session this evening. We'll go to 10.4, resolutions arising from in-camera. Does anyone have a resolution to present? Hearing nothing, notice of motion. Anyone with notices tonight? Is there any further business for the council this evening? Still hearing nothing. Be it resolved, this meeting shall now adjourn at 10:18 p.m. And be it further resolved that the next meeting shall be next year, Tuesday, January 3rd, 2024 at 7 p.m. Is there a mover? Councillor, is it Neely goes first? Or
Sure,
Blosha the second?
sure.
Doesn't matter.
Sure. It's Christmas.
January 3rd.
January 9th.
Yeah, you
That's what I
said
thought. You
third.
said third. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Ninth.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say it.
January 9th.
I wasn't saying nothing. I thought I didn't listen at some point.
We're going back.
Thank
to
you,
normal.
everyone.
Yeah,
It's been another whole year here together. For the most part, we even stand each other. Occasionally, there's a few moments, but we get over it.
We got a little rocky there.
A little rocky a few
but
times.
That always happens when you get more than one person in the room.
A little rocky,
Yeah, no.
a little rocky a few
No,
times.
it's been far better than what I saw here previous. So we're doing
Yelling at each other.
really, really good.
Nobody's
Well,
eating.
me too. Before the council before.
So Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah.
Merry
Yeah.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Call the question. Those in favor?
Yes.
All the best in the new year.
Mary.